am your host, Chad Bardo. Joining me as always, Zachary Tyler, Pew Pew, Duncan Areno. I'm trying to think of a Dale quote. I got nothing. I'm just thinking of Hank Hill going, Bobby, do you know how to start a man's heart with a down power line? No, Dad. Well, there's no wrong way to do it. Best line of that show is goddamn history. This is Making an Impact, a subsidiary of the Wrestling Underground, where we talk about things without fear of reprisal, mostly because we're doing this from a basement and no one can hear us talk nonsense. So, woohoo!
Is it no one can hear us or no one cares to hear us?
Well, we have like 50,000 combined views in the last like 2 years, no, a year and a half across YouTube and that their Twitch.
Oh man!
So I guess we're just not pissing anyone off enough. So let's start by saying, I think the WWE isn't very good. Oh! Hot takes, like hot cakes.
Is that really a hot take?
God no. Remember when we used to actually have hot takes? Remember when wrestling wasn't on our side about a lot of things? I mean, they still aren't. But whatever. So, this is Making an Impact, your weekly review of Impact Wrestling. He's Zach, I'm Chad. Let's get into it, Zach. We open up this week's show with the Moose taking on to Heath. If Heath wins, he earns a title and a contract. He did not win.
Yeah, he did not win. He's gonna have to go back to that trailer park, explain to those 12 kids what happened.
He's gonna have to make sure those WWE 2K19 royalties get stretched out, or 2K20. One of those, right? The match was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't like the ref bump at the end. I think that's a done cliche that we need to get rid of.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was going to ask you the question, Chad. Mm-hmm. Is the ref bump overplayed?
Yes.
Because it seems like if there is a title match or a number one contenders match or anything involving the championship, 9 times out of 10 there's going to be a ref bump which allows the heel to actually win.
And I don't know why that's the mode anymore. I was talking about this with Marcus because I don't know if you saw this, but WWE is now doing a third hour of Raw called Raw Underground. Yep.
So, a third hour. Wait. This isn't a fourth hour, though.
No. That's why I said the word third hour. The third hour of Raw is now called Raw Underground. And apparently it's a... I didn't watch the show, so I don't know if it's like an entire hour, if they went back and forth, but they had like matches at like an underground location, quote unquote, with Shane McMahon hosting. Did you ever watch any of the Josh Barnett Bloodsport stuff?
I did not.
Well, I won't stop talking about it incessantly, so you should. But it's basically this idea of pro wrestling without Irish whips because there's no ropes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's mostly just grappling and stuff. And the show that really did great with the concept was the WrestleMania weekend of 2019. The main event was Barnett versus Minoru Suzuki. Davey Boy Smith took on Killer Cross. John Grisham was on the undercard. It was a really good show. But there's no pinning in these matches. It's just knockout or tap out. So Raw's trying to take that idea and make it into their own shtick. I think that's an idea where wrestling should go more into, with the idea of realism in their wrestling product. I think the idea of like, oh, the ref bump, oh, you can't have a clean loss. I think all that's tired out. I think it's done. And I don't think it's done as in the sense like, we need to like let it refresh. I mean, I think in its totality, the idea of presenting pro wrestling like it's 1981 is dead. We're okay with heels not cheating to win. We don't even technically need heels and faces in the abstract. Just let people kind of be who they are. Because if you look at mixed martial arts in general, they don't worry about making one new star. They try to put a new weight class in there and make as many stars as possible. And I think in essence with that, I think that's the way wrestling should go. You have your divisions, have your heavyweight division, your middleweight division, your cruiserweight divisions, have an open weight division, or the X division in Impact's case. Have two weighted women's divisions, the atom weight and the flyweight or featherweight. And then you could have like a 6-man division and a 2-man tag team division, and that's you're going to need to hire more wrestlers, but I don't see that necessarily as a bad thing because more people are working. And what you do is instead of just putting out the entire roster every fucking week, you roll out a new quote-unquote group every week. So that way there's fresh faces every week to watch on your 2-hour television show. So maybe one week you'll get the tag team division champions. Maybe one week you'll get the middleweights. Maybe one week you'll get the heavyweights. That way, when they advertise these guys, it actually matters. And I feel like that's part of the issue with wrestling. Is like every week we expect the same guys out there. So why are you advertising these matches? We know they're going to exist because you only have 20 fucking guys you ever go to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of the issue with wrestling as a whole. And I feel like the ref bumps from Tuesday night's Impact is just kind of a smaller issue across a larger cavalcade of dumbassery.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's interesting your reference of presenting wrestling like it's 1982 anymore. It's oddly wrestling today is still presented that way in the ref bumps and some of the more hokey angles and storylines and everything, but at the same time it's also like exactly the opposite, because it's even in 1982 everyone people still presented it as a sport. But now with you have the ref bumps, you have this the cheesy storylines and the angles and stuff like that, but at the same time you also there's no real any actual semblance of it being a sport is pretty much gone. I always like to think people always used to say wrestling isn't ballet in terms of people get hurt and everything. It's like, one, people get hurt in ballet.
Yeah. You ever see them toes? Them toes are jacked.
Oh, the shit freaks me out. You're not supposed to stand on your toes like that. It's wrong. But at the same time, it's like, it kind of is now, because the matches are so choreographed. They're so focused on the wows and the this is awesomes and the holy shits, that was an amazing spot, that's all it is anymore. You have the hokey stuff that's still kind of left over, but you also have the everyone is an amazing athlete, and there's no aggression, there's no competitiveness. It's all just whole bunch of chain choreography matches now. So things need to, we need to get rid of some of the old stuff, but also bring back some of the old stuff. Some of the in-ring psychology is is the thing that we're missing anymore, because there's no in-ring psychology of a 4-team tag team match where one person dives out and then the next person and the next person and the next person and then the next person, and it's JR said it recently on his podcast is like he doesn't call those dives to the outside anymore because they're as overdone as a headlock anymore. There's no point to them.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Go on.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we need to stop with all the high diving because everyone does it, and therefore it's not special anymore. The X Division, when it started, was special, as we've said multiple times. The X Division was special and it was revolutionary, and now the X Division is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything wrestles like the X Division now. We need to psychology, actual stories in the ring that are devoted more to competition and less to less spots and more of a complete story.
So here's what I'm going to do.
What you got?
I'm going to tell you all the things I would change about Impact right now.
Okay.
First and foremost, I find it very ironic I'm about to say this considering what Austin Aries said a year and a half ago. I would bring in weighted divisions.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost. But I wouldn't do it in a way to dissolve the X Division, but to increase the X Division. One of the things I really like about MLW is that they try to treat their singles champions as world champions across the board. Myron Reed is the world middleweight champion. God damn it, I was about to call him Famu. That's not right. He's one of the Anawahis, I believe. Manu, Afu, something like that. He's the heavyweight champion. And then you have my boy, Muscle Mountain, I think is Beef Muscle Mountain or something like that. His name is Jacob Hammerstone. He's the world open weight champion. So like his belt doesn't have a weight class. He's the open weight champion. And I like that. I like that all three are world titles, all three matter, all three main events, but they have weighted divisions. So I think that works. So I would do something similar, only I would add a third weighted class. I would have the heavyweights, and I would make that 215 and up. I would have the middleweights, or 216 and up. And the middleweights would be 215 to like 195, or 195 to 224, 225, something like that. And then I would have the cruiserweights. So you'd have the cruiserweights, the middleweights, and the heavyweights. And then you would have the X Division that I would rename the X Division Openweight, or the Openweight X Division. And it would be, as it's announced, it would be a weightless division, but on top of everything, I would also make it a no frills, not no rules, but limited rules type of title. There wouldn't be a count out. There wouldn't be a obvious disqualification. You know, you would be able to do more in an X Division title match than, say, a regular wrestling title match. And that's part of the hook. So, like, you could bring in a Tommy Dreamer or a TJP or a Chris Bay and compete for that belt, and they would all have their own version of an advantage in that division. I would bring in... over time, I would want to do a 6-man tag title eventually, but right now I'm fine with the tag titles as is. And then with the Knockouts division, what I would do is kind of separate them. And I would have Impact be the name of the men and Knockouts be the name of the women. And I would develop a Knockouts... I don't know if I would... I think I would go with featherweight because flyweight just sounds kind of gross. Sounds like a little fly, man. Even though it's a legitimate weight class. To be clear, I would not want to name it the weight class flyweight. Featherweight or lightweight would be the top women's title in terms of weight class, and it would be like 195 and up, and then the other one would be like 194 and under, and that would be like the atom weights. And that would allow you to get two women's world champions at the same time. They would both be Knockouts champions because that would be the brand. And then I would introduce, of course, the Knockouts tag team titles, which would be openweight as well. And doing that, you can develop, 4, 6, 8, 10 new wrestlers to be the quote-unquote faces of your company. You can dole them out over the course of several weeks instead of having to rush them all out at once. And what you would do alongside that is you would do a ranking system. you don't need to necessarily worry about like a record because that could be a little bit convoluted throughout the year. Although if you did do it
Yeah.
throughout the year, it would be a lot easier to do it in Impact than say the WWE because WWE does house shows. At least they did. So like with Impact, you could easily just do a yearly record, which would be helpful. And on top of that, I would make every television match 10 minutes with a 10-minute time limit, and then every main event 15 minutes, unless it's a title match, in which case I would make it 20 or 25 minutes. And then on the pay-per-view, every match would be 20 minutes, unless it's a title match, in which case it would be 25 minutes, unless it's a world title match. That would give it 30 or more minutes, depending on where it falls on the card. Now, obviously, you would just shuffle around the time limits to fit the pay-per-view. So, like, you didn't need to, you don't need to actually have 3 matches go 30 minutes for the title. You could have one end in 4 minutes, one end in 15 minutes, one end in 22 minutes. But you announce it as a 30-minute time limit, or as much as the time limit left allowance would allow you. So I would because that's essentially what they were like from 2004 to early 2006. Like that's what Impact was, save for the weighted divisions. Everything had a time limit. There was set time restrictions for the Fox Sports Net stuff. So that to me was when Impact really had a uniqueness to itself that no one else has right now. And I would go back to that. And I think it would be very successful. I think it would work, especially since it would be completely different from anything else you're getting. That's just me. That's just me. I don't know if you think it would work, but I think it would.
I definitely like going back to the 10-minute time limits for matches that was TNA Impact at the beginning for when they had an hour-long show, they wanted to cram in as much as possible. I mean, now you have 2 hours, but that doesn't mean you need to have long-ass matches. You can do so much in that 10-minute time limit.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to have these long 20 to 40-minute matches every single time. You have a 10-minute time limit. Either it goes to 10 minutes and it's declared a draw, or someone wins by point system or something to that effect, and you can get as much across as you can in a longer match, if not more, because then you would have even more of an opportunity, like, okay, this person, it would be more of a way to showcase, who's higher up in, who is the better wrestler, who is the main eventer, who's the mid-carder, who's the jobber, and all that stuff. As we have said many times, there should be a definite divide between a main eventer, a mid-carder, and a lower card jobber wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, everyone's exactly the same, and thus nobody stands out. So I like that idea. I said a few weeks ago when I watched probably my second episode of AEW Dynamite, one of the things I liked about it was that when they brought their name up when they were making entrance, it had their record for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nyla Rose was 8-2 or some bullshit like that. Treating it that way, and that was one of the few things that I liked about the what was that tournament?
Which
that
one?
always used to the one that took up like 4 months leading up to Bound for Glory and encompassed everything.
Oh, the Bound for Glory series.
Yes, the Bound for Glory series. The one thing I liked about it is that it gave a value to wins, but not just wins, but how you actually won. Like a DQ win was worth 1 point, but you get a pin or a submission, you get 2 or 3 points or something like that. So I maybe not have a point system, but have a show the wrestler's record for that year. See how good they're doing and put actual value in wins in matches.
And like it's not such a crazy idea.
It's not.
Because
it's really not.
When you look at because pro wrestling in essence is simulated combat sports.
Yes.
If you look at some of the best fighters in MMA or boxing or what have you, a lot of them have really great records. And a lot of them also have a lot of great finishes. They have the ability to be exciting in a short amount of time. No one ever sits down and watches, a Conor McGregor pay-per-view and goes, well, he beat Jose Aldo in one punch. That's so dumb. But we've somehow equated time and the length of which a match can go as good. And I think that's part of the problem is we got a lot of people who talk about knowing how to book when they're fans, but don't have an actual fucking clue. There's a match that I brought up last night that I'll bring up again. It was from like 2012 or 13. It was Tomohiro Ishii versus Katsuya Shibata. I can't say his first name. Katsuya. It's Shibata. Shibata. And it was like 7 minutes long, but it was a banger of a match because they just went balls to the wall. And I think that's something that we need to kind of look at and start doing more of is this real kind of, pro wrestling style. Like if someone's hurt, the one person's not going to walk around going, yeah, I'm evil. They're going to, jump on him and try to get a finish. And I think that's one of the reasons why wrestling, should always have a KO TKO finish as well. On top of the pinning stuff and on top of the submission stuff, because that would give it a sense of, well, you can't just lay there for 2 minutes. You actually have to do something. And that would hasten the time hasten the pace of the matches, would resolve the matches in a quicker fashion, would be able to tell more of a story in such fashion, and would also be able to add another layer of who a wrestler is. And I think about, like Loki. Like, just think about like if Loki and Austin Aries were part of the cruiserweight division of Impact. Just the made up idea. Well, Loki once famously did a rolling thunder kick into some dude's face and legitimately knocked him out. Not exactly the safest thing in the world, whatever. But you do that once, you can now do that anytime you want. People think you're legit. And if you had a TKO, you hit him with that kick, and then all of a sudden the ref goes, well, he's out, you win. And now Loki all of a sudden is one shot, one kill. Then you bring in Austin Aries, who's all about the submission. He's going to work, to try to get the last chancery. He's going to hook your arm and take you to the ground, and he'll hit you with some elbows and maybe a brain buster to try to soften up your neck. But he's going to go 20 minutes in a 25-minute match all the time. Like that's who he is. He's the decision guy, if you will. He's going to work to get a spot. So then you put him against Loki, and all of a sudden you got a guy who can knock you out in one fucking kick, who's knocked out 4 of his last 5 dudes in under a minute, versus Austin Aries, a guy who routinely tries to stretch out matches so he can try to work for a submission. You don't need a feud. The dichotomy of them as fighters tells the story. Jacob Fatu, that's his name. The heavyweight champion in MLW is Jacob Fatu. I knew he'd figure it out eventually. I think I just scared Zach. So that's what I would do. And then you can, dial back on the blood feuds in wrestling. So when you do get a blood feud, when you do get an Eddie Sammy situation, it feels more authentic.
Mm-hmm. And we'll definitely talk about the Eddie Sammy situation.
Yes. By the by, I'm just going to say this. MMA should not be better pro wrestling than pro wrestling, and it is. These dudes cut better promos most times than pro wrestlers, and it's sad. Yeah. So Heath lost.
Yeah. It used to be if you couldn't. It used to be if you couldn't talk, then you had better be a damn good wrestler, and that even that would only get you so far.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Under my theory, I would be able to get a lot more out of them non-talkers. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with the more match stoppages. as I am brought back to a few weeks prior to Slammiversary when Eddie Edwards was facing Ace Austin, and Ace Austin pulled out his playing card that is supposed to be razor sharp. Okay, it's a little gimmicky, but he slices Eddie's eye. If you do that, and instead of just continuing for another half-hour match for the rest of the match, and then Mad Fulton comes out, and that's the big surprise. That's who's been letting Trey out all the time. Instead, have him slice Eddie's eye open. Get fake blood in there and everything. Have the match immediately stop. The gimmicky card thing suddenly becomes a little more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Especially if it's done in the context of a match where it's legal. Like, just doing it in a regular match, I don't think helps the idea. But if you do it in like a no holds, because wasn't that the match that was no holds barred on Impact?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I think it was a no DQ because Eddie was trying to avenge Trey or some bullshit like that. But yeah, have it be in a no DQ match. Eddie is, and again, play up that this is the same eye that Sami Callihan hit with the baseball bat just a couple years prior.
Mm-hmm.
Slice Eddie's eye open, just blood everywhere. A match ends immediately. Suddenly, Ace Austin is no longer just a slimy little stooge that has to have Madman Fulton. Ace Austin is actually dangerous. And if you are in a no DQ match with him, you need to watch for when that card comes out, or else you are in serious trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That would have done so much more for him than sticking him with Madman Fulton, who is... I know why they keep him around, but at this point, he has done nothing to ever impress me.
No. And part of the idea of going to a weighted system is, like, once you get guys like Madman Fulton in a specific division where he's not trying to outperform Trey Miguel, all of a sudden, you don't need him to. You just have him go in there, hit a few big forearms, hit someone with a running, big boot, and then whatever his finisher is, and then boom, you could put together, 9 fucking wins in the span of 6 months. Because the idea, obviously, and this is again needs to be reiterated, is that these guys wouldn't be wrestling every week. My ultimate idea, if we're going with the Impact model of, let's just say we film 4 shows, every month. 1 weekend we do 4 shows. The idea is we would do, at best, 1 promo for Eddie, and then one and then 1 match for Eddie. 1 promo for Fulton, 1 match for Fulton. Now, you can do more on a given show, but the idea is that 1 week he'd do promos, 1 week he'd do matches. That way, the other 2 weeks, other guys are inserted. That way, you can develop and build more talent, and you can have multiple big names on a card. That way, you can also do, when you do like the Twitch and the Impact Plus stuff, when they go back to that, you could have, like, for the sake of argument, let's say Eddie's the world middleweight champion, because that's about where he'd be once he stops eating pasta every day. Stop eating carbs and drinking beer, Eddie. We know you like it. We see it on your hips. Just saying. I love you, brother. But, like, I want the old Eddie back. Not the weird hair Eddie. But, like, let's say Eddie's back in shape. He's middleweight. World middleweight champion. And he's kicking ass, and he's in a violent feud with Sami Callihan, who just made weight from middleweight, and they're going to have a fucking fight on Impact Plus at, Bangers and Mash. I'm bad at naming things. Just shut up. But then you have a heavyweight title match between Moose and Fulton that you put on Twitch. Now, obviously, Sami and Eddie's going to be the better match, so that's the one that you're going to put underneath the paywall, while Moose and Fulton are going for the heavyweight belt, and that's the one that you're going to give away for free, but it's still a world title match. It's for the heavyweight belt, and so like that way you can really maximize these kinds of outings, and you're not so much forced to have to go in there and try to build up 60 fucking big-time matches. Kind of do what New Japan does, where instead of doing, like, every match is a big match, you do Eddie and the Rascals and TJP and Falaba versus Reno Scum, Ace Austin, Sawyer, and whoever or whatever in a 12-man tag or in a 4-man tag, an 8-man tag. I mean, not a 4-man tag. You do like a bunch of 8-man tags where it's like, it just you put the big names in these different combinations, and that's kind of the draw is let's see how they work. And then you do 3 or 4 matches where it's like Taya versus Jordan Grace and, the North versus Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, right? Like who fucking cares? I don't know. And then like the main events, whoever. And like that way you're protecting matches as well, because one of the things that wrestling needs to stop doing is giving away the big match. The idea of like teasing it by like, well, we'll put Sting versus Hulk Hogan on Nitro, but we'll end it after 2 minutes, and then it'll end in a no contest. That pisses people off. That doesn't help sell the fight. It hurts the overall idea of what you're trying to do. We want conclusiveness. We want the idea of someone decisively winning. Doing those half-assed, hack-ass types of finishes just serves to piss fans off, and it has for 25 fucking years, which is why attendance has gone down every year for the last 25 fucking years. You have to adapt. Yeah. And I think going with a simulated, not necessarily MMA style, because I think, you should still be, cruiserweight style, lucha libre, X Division, hardcore, whatever. I think that's still fine. But really leaning into the self-style. Like Eddie would be a all-around worker type. He can get you from any place. Plus, he's got that one-hit move. The Boston Knee Party, he hits you once, it's over. But then you look at Sami Callihan, he's going to be more methodical. He's going to pick a limb, and he's going to stretch your night out because he's going to try to attack your smaller joints. He's going to try to stomp on you. He's going to try to, kick your ankle. He's not going to be dirty, or he's not going to be doing anything illegal, but he's going to be super fucking dirty about it. So you lean into the self-styles even more and not so much worry about trying to be the hybrid, I'm Big E, but I'm going to do a 450 fucking splash. No, you're fucking not. Because if you try to do that shit in a real fight, you're going to get your ass jacked. I'm just saying. So, like, I would get rid of the idea of, like, if you need more than 10 seconds... No, if you need more than 2.5 seconds to get up to the rope and do a move, you're not doing it. Like the days of watching guys like, oh, I'm gonna fall, shaking as they're trying to climb up, and then they're on top, and then they're still shaking because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. All they know how to do is the corkscrew, and that's all they're gonna try to do. No, I would literally run the company and say, if someone climbs to the ropes and takes longer than 3 seconds to jump off, fucking hit the ropes and crotch them, because at that point they've blown their spot. Because I wouldn't do this bullshit where like you can just take 20 fucking seconds to get up at the top rope to do a fucking elbow drop. No, I wouldn't let you do that shit in a real fight, and I'm not gonna let you do this shit here. And like that's what wrestling needs to go back to. If you can't do something quickly, you ain't doing it. No. I think about that Scott Hall, and it's not the greatest one-to-one, but it kind of gives you the idea. Remember when Scott Hall got really trashed at that indie show back in like 2011, 2012? And, like, they still wheeled him out there, and, like, he was just so drunk he couldn't do anything. And he tried to do his discus punch thing, but he literally just turned around real fucking slowly. That kind of shit wouldn't fly. I would literally tell someone, like, if you rotate that slowly, your opponent's supposed to just roll you up and pin you. Because, like, you're done. Now, granted, in that case, I would be saying it more as he's not drunk, just sucks at what he's trying to do. And I would force wrestlers to really figure out what they're good at. Like I would be like, can you actually do the grapples? No, then don't do the grapples. Do you look like you're punching watermelon with your open hand, just going thunk? Well, that's ripe. Then don't punch. Do you look like you're kicking like a little girl? Then don't throw kicks. It's not fucking hard. So I would do a complete rebuild of a lot of different talents, and I think it would be for the benefit of the company and the individuals. Especially if you're able to build the promotion up to the point where you're able to send people on, like, Good Morning America. Like, could you imagine, like, going to, like, Good Morning America with, like, any one of your 19 goddamn weighted champions? It's what the UFC does. Like, holy shit. Like, they have so many champions. They can just send them, like, we'll send one to here, we'll send one to here, and we'll send 2 to there, and we'll send 3 to there, and you got the faces of the UFC going everywhere. And Impact needs more than one phase, and I think the WWE needs more than one phase, and I think wrestling in general needs more than one company with more than one faces. What's that thing in Marvel, the Living Tribunal? Wrestling needs its own Living Tribunal. Multi-faces. Multi-faces. Speaking of multi-faces, back to Impact recap. That was a long fucking segue. Why'd you let it go so long, Zach?
Because what we say is important.
You ain't wrong, yo. You ain't wrong. Straight facts, homie. Straight facts. So GM Miller asked Willie Mack if he knows what Rich Swann's retirement announcement's going to be. He says he doesn't know what Rich Swann's retirement announcement's going to be. I'm sitting here going, it's a retirement announcement. We've seen this fucking shit before. Oh, this is another thing I'd get the fuck rid of. I don't need any more fake retirement announcements. I don't.
No.
I don't believe it. Now, I believed Rich when he was screaming in agony after Eric Young attacked him. I was like, hey, you might have actually fucked him up there. I don't think Rich is that good of an actor. I think Eric Young went full Sammy Callahan on his ankle. But like, I wouldn't do these. Like, wrestling should be about making you believe the possible, to quote Barney Stinson. You shouldn't be sitting there going, well, obviously, because that's dumb. And I go back to the one that everyone always praises, and I go, how are you praising it? It was telegraphed. And it was the Mark Henry retirement speech that went nowhere.
Yeah. How many people, I want to know how many people still praise that today.
Everyone I see still praises that segment. And now, like, listen, like, it wasn't that long after Edge had to retire, and like, you know, okay, fair play. But like, as soon as John Cena came out by himself, that's when you knew. Because you don't do a retirement announcement like that. Like, no, like, that's so disrespectful.
Yeah. Well, shit, I think it wasn't even that John Cena came out. I think John Cena was still in the ring after cutting a promo, and Mark Henry just came out to announce his retirement.
Oh, that's even worse.
He was still there. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so bad. So, as soon as that happens, you know it's not to be believed. And if I don't believe it, then why are you putting it out there? I actually believe that Ace Austin wants to bang a bunch of porn stars. I think that's a hell of an idea for Ace Austin. So when you present it like that, I go, yeah, it's believable. I really think Doc Gallows or Luke Gallows, whatever the fuck we're calling Big Bald Bitch Boy, I actually believe he would accidentally hit a cop because he's drunk. I'm waiting for that to be an actual news story. So I believe it. You know, I don't believe that Sammy can hack, so I'm not really that impressed with it. I like Rosemary as a personality, but I don't like when they start doing the Undead Realm stuff because I'm like, no one believes it. Like, it's one thing if you want to be crazy and pretend you have demons inside of you. It's another thing to try to make it look like you actually do. That doesn't mean I don't pop for the Abyss in Hell bits in Wrestle House. It's cheeky good fun. But that's all it is. It's good fun. If I'm looking at developing characters and storylines, the last thing I would do is like, yeah, we're gonna build a feud off of you being in hell. What? Can we not? Can we get away from that hokey assness, please? I think that's one of the reasons why the Rascals of all are so popular in Impact, because their whole thing is we're stoners. I'm not a stoner. I don't like the idea of stoners, and I'm not a fan of consuming edibles. But they have a lot of fun in the treehouse, and they get a lot of people interested in them, and I think that's a good thing. And they're doing it in a way that's very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much a big fan of Prohibition. I was very much on Elliot Ness's side during that whole thing. So, like, I generally just think we have a drug and alcohol problem that goes beyond just the opioids crisis in this country. That's a lot heavier than this show will ever need to be. But, there's some legitimacy in what I'm talking about with regards to how I want things presented. And I don't know if I would have the weed aspect in the Rascals gimmick personally, but at least they're being, one-to-one comparable. I don't think anyone who's not in a psychiatric ward actually thinks they have demons inside of them that makes them a covenant of we's and not I's. That's just me. I love Rosemary. That's not to say I don't. I think she's a phenomenal character. She's a phenomenal character actor. She's a phenomenal promo. But the gimmick just doesn't work in the aspect that they're trying to do it in. At least in my opinion. Some people may just love the hokiness of it all. I don't. Although I do love Wrestle House. So I'm very conflicted.
Yeah.
It's like finding out the chick that you like is actually, got some dangles and you're like, all right. Normally I'm not on board, but I'll try it. That's kind of how I feel. Like, normally I'm not vibing with this nonsense and this, but like Wrestle House is too damn funny, and it's giving Alicia a real chance to sign. We're gonna hit that when we hit it, because we still have a lot to get to.
We do.
Really do. Yeah, we really do. EC3 cut a really great promo about wanting to come for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And then, I don't know if he said it here or if I saw it later on, but he said he wants to burn the legacy of the title to the ground. I was just like, oh, I like that. Motherfucker, I like that. EC3 is still one of the best promos going. He's phenomenal.
Yes.
So Motor City Machine Guns did a great little sit down. I knew that this I'm fine with. It's a trope. It's such a trope, but I'm fine with it. The good guys come out to do an interview with Jimmy Jacobs. They're all from Michigan, so they've known each other for 20 years. And then the North comes out. Oh no! And Ethan Page is very upset. He's the most upset of the boys. If he was one of the seven dwarfs, he'd be upset. I don't know if the dwarfs had upset. I think they had cranky. Grumpy. Well, I think Ethan Page is being very grumpy, so I think that qualifies. For the EC3 and MCMG promos, Zachary, what do you think?
Great promo for the 3, of course, obviously. I definitely like the direction it's taking, and it's not just the I went to WWE and they fucked me up. They fucked up what they were gonna do with me, and that was entirely stupid. I like the direction of everything that I thought I was building myself up with in my past is actually ruining my future, so I need to destroy it and start something new. I think it's fantastic, and I can't wait to see more. The Guns North confrontation was also very solid. I love that Ethan Page has just been beside himself this entire time, and then he finally, when Josh says, "Congratulations, you beat the North," and he's like, "They beat the North? They didn't beat the North."
You beat us at 40%. What I loved was when Shelly goes, "We'll do it right here, right now." Ethan goes, "What did I just say, ya nerds?" He didn't say ya nerds, but I think everyone deserves to be insulted with ya nerds at least once. He's like, "We were at 40%. And I like that Ethan forgot when in the taping Slammiversary was supposed to be. He goes, "We just had the pay-per-view like a few weeks ago." So he's like, we're not ready to fight you, but we will be at whatever.
Emergence.
Yes, that show name. Hosted
so
by,
bad.
I jokingly said that Emergence was going to be, because it had like a space theme on the title card. I was like, oh, it's going to be hosted by Ethan deGrasse Tyson. Just Ethan Page in a Neil deGrasse Tyson suit. I think Emergence actually kind of works hand in hand when you think about their first big show under the D'Amore Callis era was what? Do you remember?
I don't.
Redemption.
Actually. Redemption.
That was supposed to be Austin Aries versus Alberto El Patron. It's going to be a big main event. Instead, it ended up being Phoenix, Pentagon, and Austin Aries in a rematch from their Lucha Underground Impact joint show from 2018. Then their next big event, besides the norms, the normies, was Hard to Kill. Hard to Kill was a pretty big event for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I remember correctly, wasn't that the night Tessa won the title? Yes, it was.
The world title?
Yes.
Or the knockouts title?
World title.
Okay.
So Hard to Kill was again another big night for them, and these are taking kind of a Impact type of kind of a duality of sense in terms of the name and the essence of what they are as a brand. You have Redemption. The brand starts to show what it can be. Hard to Kill encapsulates what the brand has been for the last 18 fucking years. And now we have Emergence, the first big show of the new era for the brand. And they do a nice job naming the era. They have the Redemption era. Granted, the Hard to Kill era was apropos because they did a lot of that during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But it was also kind of a Hard to Kill the desire to fire Tessa Blanchard because she was pretty much just a abhorrent cunt during that entire time span, just refusing to work, refusing to go to work, refusing to send in tapes, refusing to job. Like, holy shit! If anyone has ever earned the moniker of cunt, it was Tessa and Joey Ryan. To be fair, fair. And now we're because I'm all about making cunt like dick. It's a universal term. It's a gender neutral, if you will, like dudes. I'm a dude. He's a dude. She's a dude. We're all dudes. Yeah. I mean, if Kel can do it in 1996, we're good. But now you have the Emergence era where for the first time in years, ratings are up. You watched it on your means of watching, your not so legalized means, if you will.
Correct.
I watched it via Twitch. That's generally how I watch it. Although I do intend, I once I put some money aside, because I actually opened up a savings account because I'm a big boy now.
Ooh.
Yes. We had a few down months with work, so I was pretty much cash light. But we actually got some really nice news for our work in terms of how we're getting paid. So I'm actually going to see an increase, a significant increase. What I want to do is get that sling. And one of the because they have like blue and orange and like blue orange or whatever, where you can get even more. But one of them is like $20 a month. And, you get like ESPN or Fox Sports. Like, you don't get both. You get one. You get like Disney or, Nickelodeon. You don't get both. You just get the one. But both services actually have three. They have one. They have like blue and which is like we'll say it's the Disney brand version. You have orange, which is we'll say the Fox brand version or the Nickelodeon brand version. And then you have the combo, which is all of them. All three categories offer Access TV, Impact's home channel. So what I would like to do is eventually get to the point where I have Sling, but I'm holding off because I want to see kind of what happens with like MLW and kind of see what happens with what's going on with G4, because G4 is coming back. Because I want to see if G4 does end up landing on a Sling outlet, like that's going to kind of determine which way I go a little bit. So that's kind of where my headspace is at with that. But I watch it currently on Twitch. And usually it would be about 18 to 2,200, give or take the week. But the last two shows after Slammiversary last week was 5,000 people watching it. This week was almost 6,000 at its peak. So there's interest again in the show. Significant interest. Interest that went up from week to week, which is what you want. So hopefully this continues to be a trend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will point this out. When they went to Access TV, the numbers for Twitch dropped off, but when they were on Pursuit, the numbers were around 7 or 8 every week. So my thought process is more people have Access than they had Pursuit, and they're watching it on Access as opposed to watching it on Twitch. So I think this is actually a strong sign. But I agree, both pay-per-views were pretty good. Not pay-per-views, promos. Kimberly confronts Deonna Purrazzo and says, I'm going to help you with Jordan Grace. And she's like, okay. And by the by, Kimberly has officially signed a contract with Impact Wrestling.
Ooh.
So congratulations to her. So let's go to the promo, or to the segment I know you want to see or talk about. It's the Wrestle House.
Yeah.
Ty is trying to make right with everyone. Cousin Jake is trying to sleep with Susie. It's kind of adorable. Taya organizes a group activity to get some of the house guests to bathe, which was just fucking hilarious. Kylie Ray is reminding Rosemary that she's the number one contender and she wants to get back eventually, but she doesn't know when it's going to happen. And that's when Rosemary says it will take. No, she said we'll be here for as long as it takes, or something to that effect. Because
as long as it takes for Johnny to get the hit.
Yes, and then she reiterates it at the end of this week's version of Wrestle House. But I forgot how she kind of phrased it. It was something to the effect of like, just like she growled, as long as it takes.
Yep.
So that was pretty good. Johnny Bravo is attempting to get Alicia and Susie into the Saccaroni. That's
Johnny Swinger.
What did I say?
Bravo.
Oh, sorry. I thought I said Johnny Ace for a second. People Bar!
Oh, gosh.
I would like to have a threesome with you and one of your daughters.
Oh, gosh. Now that is a great question. Who would they go for first? Swinger or Johnny Ace?
Johnny Ace, I feel like they would kind of see him as Uncle Johnny, and I guarantee you they probably have some type of daddy issues to work through.
Susie, definitely.
Definitely. So, one of the things I've noticed about Alicia during the Wrestle House is she's starting to kind of really bring out a character. It's not much right now, but she's very sassy, which is definitely kind of a different take than what we've been seeing for the last 2.5 years. And she's really starting to emphasize bright colors in her gear. Not completely new, but she's starting to incorporate it with more theme in her hair. And I think it's coming across really well. It does make her pop more than ever. I don't know how else you build upon this. I don't like going with the idea of, well, creative had nothing for you. No, they did. They're just too stupid to figure out how to get there. So I know there's something you can do with Alicia. It's a matter of what. Like, what is Alicia going to be? Is she going to be like the tough chick from the streets? Well, all right, that can kind of work, I guess. Is she going to be like super into sneakers? I don't fucking know. But there's a lot of possibility with her if you give her time to flush out the character. And I think Wrestle House will help her get there. So I think that's a good thing. So Alicia's had enough of Johnny Swingers. So Tommy Dreamer announces it's match time. And it's a handicap match with Cody Deaner as the referee. Sorry, one of the other Deaners. So Alicia and Susie get the win. It's not that surprising.
No.
Yay. Kylie Ray asks Johnny Bravo when he's going to take the hint from Rosemary so that they can all get back to the Impact Zone. Bravo says he knows why Rosemary is mad at him, and he knows what she wants. The D.
I don't know that he actually does.
No, he doesn't. He has no idea. So we get a little break from Wrestle House, and then we find out that the big LG Luke Gallows has been arrested for having an open container. Well, actually, he got stopped for having an open container in his vehicle, which this kind of like none of this made sense. So one, the cops were already at the car when Anderson and Gallows rolled up, and then Ace Austin's like, "Yep, see there it is, officer," and like, listen, I know the law pretty well. An open container in an automobile is in fact a felony, but only if the automobile is in motion. So technically speaking, there's no crime. And like at most, you're looking at like a citation for drinking in public. I don't want to be drinking in public. I want to be drinking in a bar, but they kick me out.
Which is perfectly legal. You should go arrest them.
I have not watched that comedy special in like 20 fucking years. or 15 years. But that was like Ron White was the best part of that whole fucking group.
Absolutely. Absolutely was. But I mean, there were definitely some issues with it. I mean, even as Anderson was saying to the cops that who were trying to arrest them, it's like, you just saw us walking out from that building over there. Work.
Yeah.
This was not us at all.
It's not good.
It's not. I feel like any time, like, police officers are actually brought in to like arrest a wrestler or something, it doesn't work very well because it kind of breaks all the logic that kind of surrounds pro wrestling, the quote unquote logic that surrounds pro wrestling as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's people that are cheating and doing all kinds of shady underhand tactics that in actual sports would not be legal.
If you try to drag a card across someone's eye in a fight, in like a boxing ring, your ass is getting arrested. If you bring a baseball bat on someone's head in an MMA match, you're going to jail. Yes.
So whenever someone actually does bring someone in to be arrested, it
doesn't work.
It pops the whole entire bubble of kind of suspension of belief, and that goes along with the whole thing.
The only time I'm fine with it is like when you get like the Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, when they're just fucking destroying everything, and you have to have like the entire SWAT team come in. I'm gonna kill you. You're gonna have to. Like, that's great shit. I'm saying that unironically for you Vince McMahon lovers. That's great shit. Puke. Puke. I can't wait for Vince McMahon to die. He's a terrible human being. Just a gross, incompetent old kook. Can we still say kook? Is that still allowed?
I don't think it's become offensive yet, but
well, we're gonna try to make it.
It's fucking 2020, man. Everything's.
Did you just call him short? I said he's short on his monthly rent. Oh, that's economicism. What?
You're discriminating against the poor. How dare you?
Speaking of discrimination, what the fuck is Myers? Goddamn Kurt Myers, Kurt Hawken Myers, Brian Myers. What is even this nonsense?
I don't know, man.
I feel like there are guys in wrestling who are so well liked that they will continue to be shoveled down our throats long past their sell-by date. To the detriment of whoever is actually their friend. I just hit the microphone. I want to believe that there's a way to make Brian Myers someone I want to watch. But it's so hard to believe that when Murphy looks just like him. Every time I see Seth Rollins, I go, oh, look, there's Brian Myers. How fascinating. The only saving grace is I like the mask that he has, and I like the hoodie. If he comes in with a different gimmick than I'm Brian Myers from Queens, New York, my colors are the Mets colors. I'm going to puke in a fucking wheelbarrow because that's how much vomit I'm going to distribute because of how dumb of an idea that is. But if you do something other than that, and you bring him in as like a Muay Thai god or like as a kickboxer extraordinaire or like, the flying ninja from ninjutsu land, ninja or Deuteronomy. And you call him, I'm trying to think of different ways to combine Queens and Glacier and they're all coming out terrible. Glacier with an M. And, like, that's his gimmick. Okay, at least you're doing something different. But Brian Myers, that's going to pop a rating. He looks interesting. I'm not going to lie. Like the prehensile tale of gimmicks that he has like in terms of his aesthetic, work. But then you got to take it away and listen to him talk, and it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we're going to get a good shot of it. Like, he's got his fists taped up. That's great. The hoodie and the vest work. All that's great. But, like, anything outside of him showing up with the hoodie and the mask on, I don't want any part of it. I don't need to see his ginger face anymore. We already got a ginger wrestler in Heath Slater, and he's far more entertaining, in my opinion, than Brian Myers with his goddamn New York Mets colors. Whoever thinks orange and blue work, they're lying to you, kid. It doesn't.
No,
at all.
Orange doesn't really work with it.
Nah, it's not a good color. It's not.
It's not.
It makes me think you're an elementary school softball team.
Yeah, like you like the color red, but you feel like it's aggressive, so you have to tone it down a little bit.
Red's too offensive, so let's go with orange.
I do like the look of Brian Myers, and I kind of like the stuff that's playing in the background of like the quotes of, trust in the process, take your time, things will come to you and shit. The wise words given to people that don't actually amount to anything because they try to follow that shit, it doesn't actually work. But outside of that, I don't see what we can do with Brian Myers, because as we were saying last week, I think we were saying this before we went on the air, it's like the WWE does not do great with guys that they're trying to create and guys that they don't do great with just about anybody. But sometimes people don't work because they're just not that good. Brian Myers might be one of those cases. Zack Ryder's, whatever the fuck his name is in AEW.
Matthew Cardona.
He might be one of those people. Freaking.
He's absolutely one of those people.
Yeah. Ty Dillinger. What's his name?
Sean Spears.
I knew it was something.
Just so many hacky ass names, man. Brian Myers, Matthew Cardona, Sean Spears. I'm so invested. I'm so invested. Then you got like MMA names that just pop, like Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos, Stipe Miocic. Like, holy shit, those are some badass names. And then you got Demetrius Johnson. I bet you he's a little guy. Hey, you'd be right. But, like, you can name yourself anything, and you're going with Brian Myers. And, like, you have bright colors. So, like, you're trying to be Krusty the Clown without the makeup? Like, what are you doing, homie? Stop. Do something more. Like, the M logo is cool. The orange and blue is not. The Brian Myers is not. The New York cityscape is not. You are not. Man, you are literally the New York Mets of pro wrestling if you do this. And that's not a fucking compliment.
No.
You'd rather be the Florida Marlins. Sorry, the Miami Marlins. Than the Florida Mets. Than the New York Mets. Excuse me. So Eddie's out to do his title defense. Sammy responds. Rob Van Dam slaps Sammy in the back with a chair, as a good form of good luck. I thought that was a nice gesture.
Great sportsmanship.
Hell of a nice guy, that Rob Van Dam. And I was like, that's cool, because I really want to see, because they did like an Impact Plus match like a year ago. And it was all right. Like, it was pretty good. Considering Rob Van Dam was like 48, now he's 49. He's not exactly a spring chicken. But Rob is still pretty good for a dude his age. So I was like, I'm down with an RVD Sami Callihan feud. But then Katie Forbes was like, hey. And I'm like, oh. Let's see what's on Fox News. Because I'd rather watch that nonsense than this. I'll stop by CNN on the way. Both terrible. I read Reuters and the AP and nothing else. I like just the facts, please. But when it comes to Katie Forbes, I will literally listen to I will listen to Don Lemon and what's that goofy ass motherfucker, Sean Hannity. I'll listen to those two dorkosauruses rather at the same time talk about the same thing than listen to Katie Forbes go for 20 seconds. Katie Forbes is what happens when you put Fran Drescher in a blender and then have it get sucked up by a vacuum cleaner. Does her voice annoy you as much of it as annoys me?
Just about everything about her annoys the.
She's got go-away heat, man. Like, I don't know anyone who actually thinks she's a good... Man, they're like, hey, Kurt... We want you in Impact. Kurt goes, I want my wife to have a show. They're like, deal. And Karen becomes one of the best talkers in the industry.
Uh-huh.
Vicky Guerrero, granted, she's not the most charismatic, and you can definitely tell she deals with some stage fright because she's not that confident. But even Vicky Guerrero is pretty goddamn entertaining. When she wasn't doing the excuse me. Granted, again, that was her trying to do go away heat, but still. So there are gems, man. Like even Serge Tankinian or whatever his name is. No, that's the dude from System of Down. Dixie Carter. She was pretty solid, all things considered. Certainly an upgrade over Katie Forbes. And her husband Serge was solid. He was the vocalist for most of the Impact songs from back in the day. Fun factoid. But Katie Forbes, like, she's actually a pro wrestler. She does this for a living. And I can't fucking stand a bitch. Why are you a thing? Like, listen, I'm all about embracing your sexuality. I got no problem with that. You want to shake your booty and flash your tatas, like more power to you, sister. I will oogle in accepted increments. As long as you are consenting, I will consent with you. We will consent on this horse together. But who's sitting and going, oh yeah, Katie Forbes, that's what I like. Because it's not even just that she's plastic. That's fine. When she opens her mouth, I feel the need to slam screwdrivers into my eardrums. And not since Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch decided that they're going to be a couple have I been this annoyed by two people talking. And it's only one person with Katie Forbes, and that's even worse. Could you imagine Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch trying to have like a conversation at home? Oh, we want to yeah, that sounds good. Oh my God. Kill me. If they ever invite me to dinner, I'm going to drink cyanide before I get to the house. I don't know why the option of just pretending I can't go didn't come up initially, but either or. I'll kill myself or I just won't go. Like one of the two, but I ain't going.
You could just tell me you need to wash your hair. It's fine.
Gotta wash my hair. Well, when was the last time you did it? Like 3 months ago. It's really fucking nasty. Oh wait, hang on. Chipmunk. Yeah, I had a craw out of my hair. He's a good dude. Pays his rent on time. Every other Wednesday, he drops an acorn down. He's solid people. He's solid people. The Blue Jay that's stuck on the back of my head, though. He's a cunt, man. I tell you what. He gives me like 2 worms every month, and he's like, yeah, we're settled. I'm like, bitch, no, we not. It's 1 acorn every 2 weeks. Blue Jay's like, that's racist. I'm like, bitch, you racist. Why you gotta be blue? Why can't you just be a Jay? Why is color gotta be such an issue with you birds? And he goes, what you mean by you birds? Marcus would really enjoy this conversation, I feel. If you could figure out which one of us is which. The running bit is Marcus's. You can't tell white people apart. Even though it's not actually true, I just like to poke fun at it. We like to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with the match the way it went down. Sammy ends up wrestling even though he got hit in the back with a fucking chair. Eddie hits him with a Tiger Driver to start, and then match goes on, and then he eventually hits him with the Boston Knee Party. So they kind of protect Sammy, but again, I'm of the mindset of why do Sammy in a match if you have to quote unquote protect him from a loss?
Right.
Either let him lose or don't put him in.
Yeah. And at that point, I mean, the match itself went on the normal length match on Impact. So at that point, you're not even really protecting him anymore with that initial beatdown from Rob Van Dam, because after the first couple minutes of the match, there was zero mention of it. There was no like, Sammy's really struggling here after getting assaulted by Rob Van Dam out there on the ramp. You know, it went back to being a match. The attack was never mentioned again, and thus, you know, Sammy, after the first couple minutes, Sammy was not even showing any effects. So at that point, I don't know that you actually did protect Sammy, because then it seemed like at that point you're not protecting Sammy, and you're also kind of hurting Rob Van Dam in that his beatdown did absolutely nothing. If Rob Van Dam beat him down, Sammy says we're going ahead with the match. Eddie wins with that first initial surprise Tiger Driver, 1, 2, 3 over. Okay, fine. Sammy's protected because he just got laid out with a chair by Rob Van Dam, who is one of the hardcore legends. So if he hits you with a chair, it's going to take you out. And then we don't get a half-assed, I don't want to say half-assed, but we don't get a wasted Sami Callihan title match on Impact Wrestling when there's so much juice still to be squeezed out of that rival. So I am not a huge fan of how it did this win.
I'm not either. Like I like watching these two together. I think that's one of the better ideas that that Impact has been able to develop over the course of the last few years is these two cats in a feud together. I think that's, especially since Sammy seems to be pretty committed to Impact, that's a legacy feud that hasn't really existed since maybe not since Styles and Daniels, but certainly it's been the most prevalent feud in the last 5 years. And I think that's important. I'm glad that they revisit it, but I think it should be definitely done on special instances, kind of like Okada Tanahashi. Now, I'm not saying that Eddie and Sammy can draw 35,000 people in the goddamn Tokyo Dome, but you could probably do 5,000, if you build it up the right way. So
And even the video on the recap page doesn't, like, the title doesn't say anything about it. The title just says surprise title with Eddie and Sami Callihan. There's no mention of the beatdown before.
Yeah, that's not good. Did they even address the beatdown in another video?
Doesn't look like it. At least not on the recap page. It might be on the page. Well, the video that's on the Sami Callihan surprises Eddie Edwards for a title match. It starts with the beatdown, but still, there's no that should be the main focus of it, and not the match itself.
I agree. So Rosemary's not too happy about Smiley Kylie.
Because Johnny Bravo left, which is weird because you're not supposed to be able to leave.
Well, I think maybe because it's Johnny Bravo and Rosemary, they can. Or maybe they can't. I don't know. Maybe because later on we find out that Johnny Bravo came back, so we don't know exactly how far he was able to get.
Yeah, I would. I mean, if after he came back, he had said, "Well, I can't actually leave," so yeah. But it was still worth it to have this little interaction between Kylie, Rosemary, and Taya. So Rosemary was pissed.
Rosemary lets her feelings get in the way, and Kylie was able to kind of take advantage of that. There was one really great spot. These matches aren't supposed to be good, so I don't really look at them as great matches. But there was one spot I really liked, just because of how especially how Kylie sold it. Kylie went for the smiley kick, or whatever the fuck she calls it, and Rosemary catches it, and she whips Kylie's leg behind her back, and Kylie sells the shit out of it. And she just goes face first in the mat. I'm just like, oh, you never think of it, you'll see it, and then you see it, and then you realize that you've been missing that all your life. Hell yeah! So I was very much digging that. That was a hell of an idea. She hits the Kylie special to win. Taya's fucking around the entire match, and people are booing her, and so she eventually just starts counting to 3 because she doesn't want people to be mad at her.
Yep.
That was great. Johnny Bravo then returns and says, like, I know what you want, but with Taya here, it's hard to be, what you want me to be. Which I think he thinks that she wants him to be a manager for her.
Yeah.
I don't think he realizes that she wants the Bravo that Johnny has.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's funny. And then we cut back to her doing the stooge room where she goes, as long as it takes. Andrew must not be giving her the D. That's all I got to say about that.
I mean, maybe he is. It's just not enough. I mean, who knows? I'm not gonna speculate on those two together.
I will.
That's their business.
I'll do it.
I love Wrestle House because it is just a place where the best actual character wrestlers are just in a house together and interacting with each other, and it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Just Johnny Bravo leaves. Rosemary and Taya start yelling at Kylie. Rosemary calls for Tommy, who declares it's match time. Rosemary storms off, and Kylie's just in. I realize I have fucked up. This is all my fault. It's so and the previous segment with Swinger is like they are just letting Swinger run loose in this place, and it's amazing. I love everything about it.
Last week we got a nice steady dose of the Diener, so I was very appeased by that because I'm a Cody guy. I like me the Codys. They're not bad. They're a hell of a lot of fun. So I agree with you. It's the good stuff. So moving thus thereon, Madman Fulton and Ace Austin jump Carl Anderson. Then we see Supermex getting into business with Reno Scum. Thoughts on that one?
I mean, okay, Hernandez is still pissed that Rhino took his money by beating him in that match, but I feel like someone needs to point out to Hernandez, you're gonna get the money back just so you can pay it to Reno Scum. So, is this really the best way to go about this?
Well, the answer is no. We know that.
It's not.
I think at this point he just wants revenge.
Yeah.
Revenge. Yeah, revenge. So, revenge. Of the revengiest revenge. So, let's move on to the tag team main event. We see TJP pin the Bay. It's Happy Bay Day, Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's about 10:20 Bay o'clock on Og Bay. It's just turned into Pig Latin now.
Yeah, it really has.
Any thoughts on the main event match?
It was fine. I question Chris Bay tapping out to TJP. That's one of those instances where if you're gonna have TJP and Fall get the win, you have Rohit the loss. I love Rohit, but Chris Bay just won the X Division Championship a couple weeks ago, and like the thing with TJP wasn't even supposed to be an actual feud, and TJP gets him to tap out, so it really doesn't make any sense.
The sense it does not make.
Nope.
If you were to say that it made sense, you would be incorrect.
You would be either a fool or a liar.
Or both.
Or both.
Shocking. You can be both? Yes, you can. You can absolutely be both. Then the main event segment, Rich Swann's like, I'm gonna retire, and everyone's like, oh, I'm so sad. Oh, please don't go. It's like, I got to go. Like, goodbye, 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 goodbye. Watch your step. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. And then Eric Young's like, who's saying goodbye? And then Eric Young's like, Smash City on your ankle, bitch. And then Swann's like, oh. And then everyone's like, Swann. He's like, oh. And then he's like, Swann. And then he's all like, Eddie. He's like, oh. And then he goes, wrong ankle. And then Swann goes, oh. Turns around, grabs the other ankle. Oh! It was not a great segment. It was telegraphed from the beginning. Swann did, everyone did the best they could.
Yes.
But we know Swann's not retired. So why are we doing this? And like, it would be one thing if Swann came out, top of the show and said, I got to retire. And then like, Willie Mack helped him off. And then like that night, main event, Swann comes out and kerplunks Young in the head. Okay.
Right.
Fine. But just to further, I went to the doctor and he said, doctor, give me some news. I got a bad case of loving you. And the doctor's like, Mr. Swann, for the last time, I'm married quite happily. Please stop hitting on me. It made no sense. Like, he's like, I went to the doctor twice and they're like, you're going to walk with a limp. Your career's over. And I'm like, from an ankle injury? Dude, we're not even talking about like a torn Achilles. We're talking about like a broken ankle. Tony Hawk gets 2 of those when he gets up in the morning.
And he still does all the kickflips and McTwists.
The McTwists. Pretty sure that's racist to Irish people, but whatever. Those limey fucks. Oh no, those are British people. My bad. But it's like one of those things. Like, all right, like if it was a neck injury, a back injury, all right. Like, I don't know. Like the whole thing just seems like an unnecessary way of getting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like a couple times when he brought up the doctor and he was like, the doctor said, my life. I was like, your life is going to end because of this? It's a little extreme. That's how much they played this up. It's
an ankle, bro.
It's fine. It's cool, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah, honestly, the whole time this thing was going on, I was expecting the opposite of the outcome. I was expecting him to do the Mark Henry. Eric Young comes out and he just rips the boot off and starts beating the shit out of Eric Young with the crutches. Mm-hmm. That's what I was waiting for the whole time. But yeah, the whole and even if you're not gonna do that, you don't have to do the whole I have to retire thing. Just be like, I was on the shelf for 7 months and now I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be back on the shelf. Sell the injury all you want to, but don't make it a ending injury. It's just absurd.
It's fundamentally fucking stupid.
Like
I'm sitting here going, why are we doing this? Like, why is this a thing that we're all on board with?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
No, I'm not on board with it either.
I think it's the big dumb, but it is what it is. Any final thoughts on this week's Impact?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything to a length spent.
Yes, we did. All right, realnerdcorp.com. You can check out new stuff on the website every day. Kind of, sometimes, mostly. At least 5 times a week. We're also on Twitter at NERDCORP, on Instagram at realnerdcorp. I forgot to update the WCW.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. But I do remember who it's going to be. Just got to remember. I got to find her name. It's going to be a thing. Natalia Dyer. Natalia Dyer? Natalia Dyer? The chick from Stranger Things. And
Okay.
for rest of the week, we'll go with TJ. Nope, I think we already went with him recently. We'll go with Kylie Ray if we haven't gone with her already.
There you go.
I don't want to repeat too often on the wrestler side of things. So maybe we'll go with if not Kylie, if she's already been used, we'll go with Alicia. We'll just go with Alicia. I feel like Alicia deserves some shine. So Zachary, you can be found on Instagram and DeviantArt, the same handle at Radiance 2020 RADIANCE2020, right? Did I get that right? That's what I right?
You got it.
All right.
You
can find me on Twitter at Chad NerdCorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagrams at Chad's Photo Hut. Me and Marcus will be back tomorrow, every Thursday, 9 p.m. Twitch.tv/Comic and Game Corp. That's ComicAndGameCorp. 9 o'clock. Marcus and I will be talking Doom Patrol, Stargirl, and more. So tune in. This is the penultimate episode of Comic Corps under the current format. I think. I don't know when Doom Patrol ends.
I think so. I mean, Doom Patrol and Stargirl should be ending pretty soon.
Stargirl ends next week. I don't know how long Doom Patrol is.
That's a great question.
We'll figure it out later. So for Zachary Tyler, PB Duncan, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, watch more wrestling. Go to realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCORP, to listen to our past podcasts. And follow us on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and others. And as always, Zachary, why don't you take us home?
Let's make better wrestling together.